fellow violin players, this video is going to cover the first 2 lines of Minuet 1. I'm going to show you the bowing pattern of measure 1. Down, up, up, down, up, up. So each note still gets 1 beat. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, down, up, up, down, up, up. Those 2 ups hooked together, if you've never seen that before, they are called a hooked bow because there's 2 different bows hooked together. So I'm going to cycle those on my open A. Please join me this time. So my beat is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Down. Notice how I got to the tip on my down bow, but I didn't make it longer. I just used more bow. So if you haven't seen hook bows before, it would be helpful to practice it in a scale. So you've done a bunch in a row before you actually do it in this piece, and then you can rejoin the video later. I'm going to play through the first line for you and then break it down a little bit. Starts on a D on my A string. 1, 2, 3, here I go. Alright, so that's the first line. We have hooked bows in measure 1 and measure 3. So let's tackle those first 2 measures first. You have the hooked bow in measure 1, and then measure 2. You cross over to that G. See if you can challenge yourself by crossing over just your 3rd finger when you have that G, like so. Okay, I call that independent fingers. That'll prepare you for some of the things that come up in the minuets later. So let's try measure 2, and we're going to practice bringing that G over to the D string independently. Ready, and go. Let's do that 2 more times. Ready, and go. And last one. Ready, and go. Okay, let's put those first 2 measures together. We're paying special attention to our rhythm in our hooked bow to make sure that we're going 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Ready, and go. Now that you've gotten our notes and rhythms, let's focus on what we're doing with our bow. In all 3 minuets in the Suzuki book, I'd like you to challenge yourself to get to the tip of your bow on any down bow that falls on a quarter note. So there's a down bow on every single first beat of the first line. So on those down bows, we're going to try to get to the tip so that we have enough bow for when we have a hooked bow. So I'm going to play those first 2 measures again. You can join me and just try now to add that layer of getting to the tip on the first beat of every measure. 1, 2, 3, ready, and go. Okay, moving on. Measures 3 and 4. Measure 3 is a really tricky one because not only do you have your hooked bow, but we have a low 2 on our A string. So it's really hard to get all 2 of those elements in. So let's practice it first without the hooked bow. We're just going to do the notes. So we're aiming for that low 2 C natural in measure 3. And let's do that 2 more times. Ready, and go. And 1 more. Ready, and go. Okay, now we're gonna add in that hook bow. So our bow is gonna go just like measure 1, down, up, up. All 3 notes are the same speed. Ready, and go. 2 more times. Ready, and go. Last time, go. Okay, now we're gonna add that to measure 4. The only potential scary thing in measure 4 is just make sure that you're counting that half note. So here are measures 3 and 4 together. We'll just do it twice. Ready, and go. One more time. Ready, and go. Okay, let's put that whole first line together. And I have found in the many, many times I have taught Minuet 1 that after we get through the first line, it gets a little easier. There are challenges in line 2 as well, but those hook bows, once you get through those, you'll feel a lot better. So here's the entire first line of Minuet 1. Remember, you can pause the video and rewatch this playthrough of the line as many times as you need to get your bowing correct. Ready, and go. And let's do that one more time for good luck. Remember, as many times as you need is fine. We're getting to the tip on all of our down bows. Ready, and go. Okay, moving on to line 2. I'm going to play through that. We'll break it down a little bit. Have a bow lift written in at the end of line 2, please do that. You'll need to lift your bow whether you repeat or if you're moving on to the next section. So finger placement is a challenge in this line. We have low 2s on our A string. We have C naturals, so 1 and 2 feel like they are magnetic. So let's break down those first 2 measures first. I'm going to do them in very slow motion. So I'll go do, do-day, do-day. The biggest challenge is going from your 3rd finger, so the last note in that measure 5, to the first note in measure 6. So you're going from a 3rd finger on your D string to a 4th finger on your A string. So let's practice that. So we've got our G down on our D string. And then we're going to go over to a 4th finger, and you will use your 4th finger for that E. No open E's in this section, please. So we're going from a G on our D string to a 4th finger on our A string. That was out of tune. You can do better than that. All right. So let's practice that a couple times. Now, after that 4th finger, here comes a big challenge. We will have another C natural, another low 2 on our A string. So what we're going to do is go from a G to a 4th finger E, and then to a low 2 on our A string. All right, so we're doing the last note in measure 5 and the first 2 notes of measure 6. And we're going to do that a couple times. One more time. Now I'm going to put it back into context. I'm going to play through those first 2 measures again in slow motion. Pay special attention to my rhythm and how much bow I'm using. So my rhythm, right? Do, do-day, do-day. for both measures. And when I have my quarter note, I'm going to use a lot of bow because that will make sure that I don't rush that quarter note. Okay, so let's do measures 5 and 6 slowly together. Ready, and go. And 2 more times. Ready, and go. Last time. Ready, and go. And however many times or at whatever speed you need to do that, go for it. Take all the times you need. Last 2 measures of the second line, just make sure that your second finger is going onto an F sharp. So while we have low 2s on our A string and our E string in this piece, we still have high 2s, we have F sharps on our D string. So just make sure that second finger is ready to bump right up against your third finger for those last 2 measures. Bowing pattern is the same as measure 2. Measure 2 in the first line, I should say. So let's just do those last 2 measures. Do, do, day, do, and then dotted half. Ready, and go. Bow lift. So here's the second line in all its glory. Ready, and go. Okay, so let's do a full playthrough of the first 2 lines again. As many times as you need is fine to do that. Usually takes a couple weeks to master every single element of these first 2 lines, so don't feel bad if there's anything that's still catching you a little bit. So just a couple tips. Remember those low 2s on your A string, right? Your C naturals. Remember that in hooked bows, all 3 notes are the same length. And then also, how much bow you're using really helps your rhythm. When you have a quarter note, if you use a nice big full bow, you're less likely to rush. All right, we're going to put that all together. First 2 lines, complete run through. 1, 2, 3, ready, and go. And those are the first 2 lines of Minuet 1. There'll be a separate video for the rest of the piece.